Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to be part of the 13th ISAPL International Congress. Please allow me to express my sincere gratitude to the chair of the Congress, Professor Gomez, to the ISAPL Organizing and Scientific Committee, to Professor Lubimova, and to all the participants of the Congress. My name is Galyna Petrova, and I represent the Department of Spanish and Modern Greek Philology and Translation of Kyiv National Linguistic University. And I would like to present a paper titled Stereotypes in Influencers' Food Advertising Discourse. Time does not stand still. Technologies continue to evolve, people gain more knowledge, their choices become more conscious, and advertising is trusted less and less. At the same time, however, the marketing industry is also developing and seeking alternative ways to influence consumer decisions beyond traditional commercials. For instance, the promotion of various products and services through popular bloggers and influencers is becoming increasingly widespread. The linguistic and visual strategies embedded in the content of social media are turning into powerful mechanisms of persuasion and influencing consumer decision-making, while influencer marketing is progressively shaping public perceptions of nutrition, health, body norms, and lifestyle. This study examines the mechanisms through which social media influencers construct, reproduce, and disseminate stereotypes related to food in contemporary digital communication in Ukrainian, English, and modern Greek. The topic of food advertising on social media is highly relevant within Ukrainian, English, and Greek-speaking academic contexts from the economic, psychological, and philological perspectives. TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube have been selected as a primary data sources as they constitute dominant ecosystems through which food-related content circulates and acquires social significance. The findings indicate that there is a distinct pattern in influencers' use of strategies to market products and to persuade their followers to buy them. Since advertising on social media is not just text, but multimodal ensemble in which the verbal component abroad is inseparably intertwined with the non-verbal one, emojis, fonts, the color palette of dishes, background music in reels, body presentation, color schemes, camera angles, and aestheticized images of food. These visual cues amplify linguistic frames, creating coherent, persuasive narratives that naturalize narrow notions of attractiveness, health, and social success. So, methodologically, the study employs multimodal discourse analysis that investigates different communication modalities, visual, verbal, and contextual, to discover the ways in which these convey meaning and persuade audiences. The psycholinguistic component interprets how these verbal-visual combinations influence cognitive processing and emotional priming, shaping implicit attitudes toward food, body, and identity. Stereotypes can be observed both in the products themselves, through their design, imaginary, and packaging colors, as well as in the phrasing of their slogans, and in the presentations created by bloggers and influencers. This study is guided by the following questions. What types of stereotypes most frequently appear in influencer discourse about food? How are these stereotypes linguistically structured through lexical choice, evaluative adjectives, generalizations, imperatives, and affective framing? How do visual and multimodal elements reinforce the verbal construction of these stereotypes? What psycholinguistics effects do such discursive patterns produce, particularly regarding identity formation and health-related beliefs? In contemporary research, stereotypes are classified according to the object of stereotyping, with distinctions typically made between body-related, cultural, socio-economic, and gender stereotypes. Linguistic encoding of stereotypes in influencer advertising operates through markers that form consumption scenarios, frames, which shape the interpretation of the product and influence consumer behavior. Rather than activating a simple thought about the product, advertising triggers entire narrative and emotional scenarios, often via storytelling and affective framing. For example, in social media storytelling, instead of buy coffee, we encounter descriptions of a morning, the aroma of coffee, and the perfect breakfast that inspires you for the whole day. An important role is played by the interaction between frames and conceptual metaphors. Frames structure perception, while metaphors dynamize it, enhancing the overall pervasive impact of the message. Body-oriented stereotypes are among the most common in food advertising discourse. They are notions of the ideal body shaped by sociocultural norms and actively reproduced on social media. In influencer food advertising, they appear through visual imagery, metaphors, the self-presentations, where food consumption is framed as a path to achieving the desired body. Thus, advertising not only reflects, but also reinforces these standards. The health beauty stereotype links slimness to proper, natural, and organic nutrition and is verbalized through lexemes such as natural, healthy, and beneficial. In influencers advertising, food is framed not only as nourishment, but as a key to energy, physical attractiveness, and overall well-being, reflecting contemporary lifestyle ideals. At the same time, the pleasure enjoyment frame is activated. Taste and sensory experience are described in rich emotional terms and embedded in personal narratives and everyday routines. This allows influencers to present food as both enjoyable and self-affirming, strengthening emotional engagement and enhancing the perceived authenticity of the product. Cultural stereotypes are generalized conceptions of the norms and values of particular cultures reproduced through language and media, which also contribute their formation and reinforcement. In influencer food advertising, they manifest in the symbolic representation of products as markers of tradition, authenticity, or a particular lifestyle, thereby adding value to the products and influencing consumer choice. The authenticity frame in food advertising emphasizes a product's origin, its genuineness, and its connection to tradition. It is verbalized through lexemes such as real, traditional, authentic, as well as through toponyms and ethnonyms that signal quality and cultural value. Products are presented as carriers of national practices and time-tested experience, which enhances consumer trust and their symbolic significance. For every nation, traditions play a significant role. It inhabits preferences and practices of representatives of a particular ethnic group, contain a national cultural component, and function as ethnomarkers. These are reflected in language through the names of traditional dishes, the selection of ingredients, methods of preparation, as well as dietary restrictions, preferences, and related practices. At the same time, this frame coexists with and partly contrasts with the novelty frame, based on the idea that new is better. It is realized through markers such as new and innovative, highlighting the renewal of the product, its ingredients, or modus of presentation, and reflecting an orientation towards progress and modernity. Socio-economic stereotypes are generalized notions linking status and quality to levels of wealth. In food advertising, they manifest through positioning products as premium and as markers of social class, where consumption becomes a means of signaling status. Influencers reinforce these perceptions by associating food with lifestyle and normalizing the model expensive equals high quality through lexemes such as refined and elite. Evaluative adjectives form the uniqueness and selectivity frame, which primarily belongs with socio-economic stereotypes and is associated with ideas of scarcity, status, and limited access. Through lexemes such as unique, exceptional, and select, advertising constructs a mythologized image of a product as superior, even within the mass market. This linguistic strategy not only enhances the message's persuasiveness, but also creates an associative link between rarity and higher value. It appeals to consumers' desire to choose the best while simultaneously activating the aspiration for symbolic belonging to a privileged social group. As a result, the product is perceived not merely as food, but as a marker of quality, distinction, and social status. Socio-economic stereotypes are also evident in the healthy food segment. Organic and eco-labeled products are associated with higher income and a conscious lifestyle. In contrast, mass or fast food is linked to lower status. As a result, advertising reinforces the perception of a connection between diet, health, and the social hierarchy. Gender stereotypes are socially established beliefs about the roles and traits of men and women that can lead to inequality and limit individual choice. In influencer food advertising, they manifest through binary models. For example, feminine, low-calorie foods versus masculine, high-protein and high-calorie options, as well as though the promotion of body ideals, slimness, and muscularity. Moreover, these stereotypes intersect with class and cultural assumptions and are embedded in emotional engaged narratives such as healthy lifestyle and the dream body. As a result, they not only reflect social norms, but also subtly shape consumer practices and audience expectations. Autonomous sensory-meridian response functions as an effective multimodal strategy in influencer food advertising, where promotion is embedded into personal content and presented as a consumption experience. Through sound and visual effects, it creates a sense of sensory presence, allowing the audience to virtually experience the taste and texture of the product. In this format, the verbal component is minimized and persuasiveness is achieved through non-verbal sensory suggestion that shapes perceptions of pleasure and product quality. This is particularly evident in food influencer discourse, where bloggers often limit themselves to brief captions, for example, so crispy, it just melts, 100% natural, while the primary meaning is conveyed through sensory stimuli. In the Greek segment of social media, influencers actively use ASMR in videos featuring traditional products, olive oil, cheeses, pastries, where the sound of pouring and baking the product reinforces perception of locality and cultural authenticity. Well-known bloggers include Akis Petritzikis and Yorgos Mavropoulos. In the Ukrainian segment, a similar function is performed by videos featuring homemade pastries or frying in a pan, where ASMR combines with nostalgic motifs such as just like in childhood. So ASMR functions as a mechanism of transition between the frames of authenticity and tradition. First, through sound and texture, it creates an effect of product realness, after which verbal or visual markers add the cultural context, transforming this frame into one of tradition. Therefore, ASMR can be reviewed as a sensory bridge between individual experience and collective cultural memory. The American variant of ASMR discourse differs. There is virtually no appeal to historical or national gastronomic heritage. Instead, three interconnected parameters dominate: pleasure, abundance, and the intensity of sensory experience. Illustrative examples include TikTok accounts such as Foodie China, 888, as well as numerous profiles specializing in mukbang content with ASMR elements. At the level of frame organization, two main semantic centers can be identified: the authenticity frame and the hedonistic frame. ASMR content created by influencers directly interacts with pre-existing cultural stereotypes of consumption. In particular, it activates the sensory stereotype. Crunchy equals fresh, high quality. The authenticity stereotype. Real sound equals real product. The pleasure stereotype. Consumptions equals enjoyment. The impulsive desire stereotype. I see or hear it, so I want it immediately. Thus, ASMR does not create new meanings, but rather reinforces already established cognitive schemas in the consumer's mind, transferring them to the sensory level. So the study demonstrates that influencer discourse functions as a powerful mechanism for the circulation of stereotypes and contributes to the normalization of restrictive and at times harmful perceptions of food, health, and identity. It also underscores the need for ethical standards in influencer marketing, as well as media literacy initiatives that can help audience critically evaluate persuasive digital content. So that's all. Thank you for your attention.